Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Al Hanbali, your guest host today on Tarwida. This episode is a special one, not only because we're recording in person with our guests here in Dubai, but also because instead of spotlighting individual artists as we usually do, we're turning our attention to an exhibition. If you were lucky enough to visit the Silla exhibition in Sharjah, join us for a deeper look into the stories and details behind it. If you didn't get the chance, we hope today's conversation will take you on a virtual tour through its different pieces, ideas, and textures. And if you're nearby, we hope this inspires you to visit in the next few weeks. It's going on until January 5th at the Maraya Art Center in Sharjah. The project began when Rula Al-Alami, a lifelong supporter of Palestinian art and a board member of the In'ash Association, started imagining how different artists could reinterpret Tatriz across diverse mediums. The idea came to life when she connected with Sima Azzam from Maraya Art Center and Noor Suhail from 1971 Design Space. Together, they selected 25 artists, each creating a unique piece that incorporates Tatriz. And while we're used to seeing tatriz woven into fabric, this exhibition expands its possibilities into pottery, ceramics, and even sound. Several of the works were created in direct collaboration with embroiderers from the In'ash Association, which is an organization dedicated to preserving Palestinian tatriz and providing job opportunities for Palestinian refugees in Lebanon. Rula unfortunately couldn't join us in Dubai, but I was lucky to speak to her online. We'll begin with her to learn about the origins of the project, then move on to a conversation with Noor and Sima, the curators of the exhibition. Finally, we'll sit down with three of the participating artists, Zaid Farouqi, Areen Hassan, and Samar Hijazi. Rula, we're starting with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Hi.
Before we get into Silla, can you give us a little bit more background about In'ash and the work that they do in Lebanon today with Palestinian refugees?
Okay, In'ash is a Lebanese NGO actually. It was founded by Huguette Galland, who's the famous artist whose artwork is actually just behind me, in 1969. The idea was to preserve heritage, the Palestinian heritage, but also to empower women in the camps who were refugees. And to preserve, the tatriz. And this and In'ash has evolved a lot. It started like more traditional embroidery, and it also it's where we are now. It became very contemporary fashion and even art. And meanwhile, In'ash empowered thousands of women and all the camps, most of the camps in Lebanon.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about the history of Tatriz?
Palestinian Tatriz has a very interesting story, and it's very much connected to why I named the project Silla. So Tatriz started mostly in the 19th century, even though some people, scholars, trace it to the Canaanites. Time, but this is a scholar issue. It started in the 19th century, and it was based in Palestinian villages, and it was an intimate story, of women embroiderers doing their jihaz, they're in the, preparing for marriage and embroidering after they work in the, on the land. So it was kind of an intimacy of the woman embroidering her own dress or her daughter's dress, and it was all influenced and inspired by the flora and fauna of their villages. And they used to use natural dyes, so the dye varied from village to village. Even the reds in different areas of Palestine varied. And so it started as an intimate story. But then, when the Nakba disaster happened and the fragmentation, the displacement of Palestinian women, uh, they're scattered within Palestine and in Lebanon and in the region. Tatriz took another turn, a very important turn. It became a source of income, first of all, to these women. They can no longer afford, their own thoughts. It became also a symbol of resistance and persistence and attachment and recovering, part of their attachment, the lost attachment to the land. But most importantly, this fragmentation of these refugees, Tatriz was a unifying aspect of for the Palestinian women, because they were sitting, in camps, and they were from various regions of Palestine, and so they brought together the patterns and the motifs of Palestinian embroidery. And the embroidery merged, like you can find pieces that are from different areas of Palestine. And this is where the transformative power of Tatriz started. So Tatriz is like a map, a coding system to me. It's a code of all of Palestine. It represents Palestine, and it's a language that's very important because it's a living archive.
I like the framing of it being a living archive. It's kind of become a language of preservation in a way that's being interpreted in so many different ways.
That's right.
Which brings us to the beautiful name behind the exhibit, Silla. For those of you that don't speak Arabic, Silla means roots or where to connect. So, can you talk to us about that? How did you choose the name?
Okay, the idea simply came from my two passions, which are art and Tatriz and Palestine, and identity, my identity as partly Palestinian. So the idea came from this need, but it also came from a wound. What's ongoing, the genocide, and it came from that. And I always keep saying that saying by Rumi that says the wound is where light enters you, and I said it at the opening. But the name Silla has a multi layers because it starts, like I said, with the woman, her Silla, her connection to her body and to her own clothing and to her land and to the flora and fauna and village. And then it moved to the Silla, the connection between women embroiderers in the camps after the terrible tragedy of the Nakba. And so the Silla takes another form, which is unifying, those women. And then Silla has another meaning, which is the connection between the contemporary and the traditional, the art and the craft, the past and the present and the future. So I found this very short name has so many layers that represent that one concept.
What do you feel like you wanted this exhibition to say?
I wanted to say that we are here to stay, that this is a resistance, that this is cultural resistance against cultural genocide, which is part of the whole picture. This is what I wanted to say. And it's very important not to have only Palestinian artists in this, because Palestine is connected. It's not something separate from the world. So by working with non-Palestinian artists and medium other than actual Tatriz, you are expanding the scope of what Tatriz can say way, way beyond Palestine. So it's kind of saying that Palestine is a nation. It's not only the land that we lost, it's a nation and it's there to stay.
You know, Sharjah historically has done an incredible job of incorporating Palestinian voices through cultural initiatives, whether it's on stage or art in a variety of different mediums. But I'm curious, why do you feel like it was very important to be in the Khalij now?
It happened in the Khalij kind of by chance because of my connection with Mr. Sultan Al Qasimi, who referred me to Maraya. But it also is very important because the UAE is multinational. It's great exposure, and the team I was working with was incredibly accommodating and professional. And so I think it was a good starting point. Actually, the next stop is going to be Madrid in April. So I would like Silla in many forms and maybe different artists to continue. But it was a good start to start it in Khalij, yes.
You mentioned that your next stop is going to be Spain, but what do you hope stays?
What has to stay is that Tatriz as a powerful, transformative, contemporary, uh, um, power. That it's kind of preserving a language that will not go, but also transforming, in a way that stays with the new generations. Because if you tell somebody, I want a cushion now embroidered, they say, yeah, this is old fashioned. But when you insert it into art and fashion, you make sure that it's going on and the new generation will see, oh, this is a piece of art, oh, this patterns represents this area in Palestine, so you're keeping it alive. It's very important to do that through contemporary fashion and design and painting, everything.
That's beautiful. Aslan, just hearing about it makes me want to revisit the exhibition. Rula, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed speaking to you. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Moving on, we have curators Sima Azam and Noor Suhail. Sima Azam, curator at Maraya Arts Center, is known for her work in building dialogues between contemporary art, and social history, often bridging local and regional narratives through exhibitions that center culture and collective memory. Noor Suhail, curator at 1971 Design Space, brings a background in design and material culture, exploring how craft and contemporary design intersect to tell new stories from the Arab world. Together, they've reimagined Tatriz as more than just heritage, as an evolving act of cultural resistance and artistic innovation, uniting two institutions for the first time to create a shared curatorial vision rooted in connection, collaboration, and continuity. Please join me in welcoming them to this conversation. Ladies, أهلا وسهلا فيكن. Welcome to Tarwida.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I had the pleasure and privilege of visiting the exhibit in the first week that it opened. And I have to tell you, I was incredibly touched by not just the initiative, but by the artwork itself. But the place I'd like to start first is the title. Sila, I understand, but all that's left to you left me wondering why. Why is that the title? Where does it come from?
Well, so when planning an exhibition, you really have to go through a number of titles for the exhibition. Sila initially was supposed to be a traveling exhibition, so something that will continue to evolve, where new artists and designers are sort of brought into the fold. So Noor and I had many discussions about what kind of title we wanted. We could have gone with something that was a little bit more literal, like, for example, Palestinian Tatriz, or embroidery, or
weaving heritage.
Exactly. Or threads of resistance. Yeah. But we wanted something more poetic. So we started really looking into, obviously, historians, writers, Palestinian novelists, and obviously Ghassan Kanafani made sense. He is the voice of Palestine and of resistance. His novels are absolutely wonderful. So all that is left to you is actually borrowed from one of his short novellas.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's quite powerful. You know, when I walked into the exhibit, Akid, I felt a strong source of pride. But also, equally, if not a little bit more, there was pain there. How does one, especially in art, take both components of pride and pain and balance them in a way that is expressed beautifully and you don't have one overpowering the other?
I think this is how Palestinians in general live their lives. It's always that balance between finding joy and then always remembering and recalling everything that has happened or still happening, and questions about what's going to happen. Obviously, there's a lot of room for hope. We are people that, if we didn't have hope for 77 years, I don't think we would have lasted. But yes, Sima and I, the moment this was handed over to us, it was given to us, you know. You're about to curate a show about Palestinian Tatriz. We knew that we needed to do more. We needed to bring in all those things that you've mentioned, all that duality that Palestinians live through. And at the same time, we had to address what was happening on the ground. We did not want this exhibition to come across as something that's disconnected completely from reality, because that's not what curators should do, from my perspective, and definitely from Sima's. We need to be very relevant. So once you bring them into a space that discusses anything Palestinian, not just Tatriz, it will bring back everything that, all the news, all the scenes, all everything, all the devastation. So we had to make it part of the show in one way or another.
Absolutely, because curating is layered, right? The whole idea of Tatriz is layered. This whole exhibition is layered as well. As you're saying, there are so many people that were from all, like, they're not necessarily Palestinian, but they're heavily rooted in the Palestinian cause, let's say. But everyone was speaking the same language. This is what made it easier for us. Everyone was speaking Tatriz in some shape or form with different mediums.
I'm curious about what surprised you in the conversations that you had with non-Palestinian artists and the way that they chose to kind of express or use Tatriz as a means of expression.
I mean, we're all Arab or really heavily rooted in the Arab or Palestinian cause, let's say, right? So everyone sort of came together, had their own ideas, and there was so much research that they had come in with, and so many narratives that they wanted to bring into their exhibition. And because of the different mediums, it really showed how extensive all of this was. Aya Haidar, for example, she does her own embroideries, but there was also that conversation between her and al-mutarrizat, the embroiders, the artisans from In'ash. So that opened up the dialogue even more. You had people that lived in the US who came to us, and there was works that were, let's say, a dual installation with Layana Al-Hussein with the amulets and her tatriz. Irene is Palestinian. Irene's work as well with the layering. There were so many. Every time I think of this, it's just expanding.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think the one that also surprised us
Yes.
the most was Naima Al-Majduba,
Oh my God, yes.
who translated motifs into sound.
Oh my goodness. That was
Yes.
one of those unexpected ones where I was, yeah, that even me, because I like what you said, Noor. Yani, when we talk about tatriz as a medium, it's also a language that gives us an opportunity to say the things we can't necessarily say. Can't, won't, don't feel comfortable doing, or sometimes just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's a medium that allowed for that sort of expression. Talk to me about her choice in terms of her piece, because that, and what was the reception to that piece?
So in our process of curating, obviously you're accumulating a lot of other artists and designers together, and we were looking for, that sort of, there was a piece, I felt like there were some gaps or there was a piece missing. So we had done a lot of research, and then we came across Naima's profile on actually social media. And it was part of her master's program that was funded. It's called The Sound of Thread. And when I read The Sound of Thread, I'm like, it can't be possible, really? I was like, you've taken a language that is usually spoken, transformed it into visual, which is tatriz, and then she gave it sounds. So went online, did more research, and when I heard the melodies that she put together, it was a very emotional moment. Because, like how we say in Arabic, "عطتهم روح." It really
Gave them a soul.
really gave him a soul. Something came to life, and knowing that she had done 6 different ones. So each, so she had accumulated some tatriz motifs together. Each one representative of his different city or village, like Gaza, Ramallah, Bir al-Saba, Al-Quds, Beit Lahem, there's Yafa as well. So they each have different motifs that people know, basically can tell that you are from that area. And then she accumulated maybe 6 or 7 motifs, and they all made a sound. And it's almost like she gave that area its own voice. Yeah, it was so, I don't know what it was. It was this emotional, it tied things together.
And it became the sound of the exhibition.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the moment you walk into the exhibition, it's what you hear.
Something I wanted to, about the reaction, there were a few musicians that attended the exhibition, and a lot of them had come up to me and say, how can we build on this?
Wow.
Which I really loved. They wanted to bring in their own instruments. There was a drummer that came in that said, oh, can I drum this? There was a oud player that came in and said, oh, I used to teach oud. Can I actually build on this? So a lot of people wanted to take that snippet and just sort of, have it, again, the idea of connection and continuity. People wanted to build on it and make it into a full-fledged, song or something.
What do you think? And I feel like you guys have done such a good job in terms of articulating it in the way you talk about the pieces. But for our listeners, when we talk about translating tatriz, taking tatriz and the symbol that it carries to Palestinians and non-Palestinians, what does it mean to translate it and not replicate it?
I think also with tatriz, it's important to understand the actual language, as you said, is visual, right? So, and it is used to narrate something. It's a storytelling, right? And whether it's stories of love, compassion, it's about weddings or breakups, or even just the harvest season, or and of course a lot of just there's a lot of sadness in it as well. So these artists actually took this medium and transformed it according to the story and the concept they wanted to do. They wanted to speak of or amplify.
A lot of the veterans in Tatriz, when they visited the space, I don't know if I don't want to say disappointed. They definitely loved it, but they had a lot of comments like, okay, not all of these works show Tatriz the way we know it. But yes, Amr Shomeli, it does not include the
Tatriz.
actual Tatriz, but it's a story. If you know the story about this artwork, you will realize how significant the thobe is to a Palestinian woman. So that is something that we also wanted to bring into this exhibition. So you come in, you don't necessarily need to see the الخيوط or the threads, but it's here to tell stories about what the thobe meant to a woman. Why did she stitch or embroider messages on it, and what did it mean for her to leave it behind? Why did she leave it behind? You know, what happened with her? It must have been something so awful. So these are the questions that arise with every work. So yeah, this is what the exhibition is about in reality, to ask all these questions and to know more and to deliver all the messages that these artists wanted to deliver.
Absolutely. And to add to that, we had the Palestinian woman in there. We had this moment that we love to share. It's like the story that we love to share through our process.
I remember when I was saying the source of hope, and I think
Yes.
This is when we
Please
Exactly.
tell me,
we
share,
will
share.
unpack that.
Share.
So, when you have an exhibition, you've been planning it for so long, and then the works start to come in, and we had the works being shipped in from all over, right? All over the world, different continents as well. So we wanted to add a few more artists. So I had contacted Hazem Har, and I asked him if I can bring back one of his works that we so lovingly call the Palestinian Mona Lisa. We exhibited this work, which is basically a huge image of an enlarged image of a Palestinian woman. And the image was taken in 1883 in Bethlehem, and the woman is completely dressed and adorned in tatriz and this beautiful headdress as well. And then there's a neon light that sort of interrupts the work. We exhibited this in 2021 for his solo show, and I really wanted her back into the exhibition. So when we opened, like we sort of, uncased her, like from the packaging, we brought her into the space. She moved around so much because we were trying to figure out where to place her. And then Noor had this moment. She's like, Seema, she is all that is left to you. It is the Palestinian woman. Without her, there is no exhibition. There is no tatriz. So tatriz is, yes, the main focus, as you're saying, but at the end of the day, it comes from the Palestinian woman and her resilience throughout these years, throughout whatever has been thrown to her. She has carried it and carried it over with grace and with love, and she's passed it on to so many generations. Sorry, this makes me very emotional. But yes, and this is why it's become...
Yeah.
She is the Palestinian Mona Lisa. She's called Places in Existence. Yes, just for the record.
she is Places in Existence. Yes, I mean, there's so much to say. It's, I mean, it will take us years to talk about the Palestinian woman. And what triggered that was when I read the essay, Wafa Ghanem, the dress historian whom we love so much, and she kindly she came for the opening, and she wrote for the publication of the exhibition. She mentions in her essay, before she starts talking about each and every work, she mentions the absence of the woman who passed this tradition down to other generations. And that, I don't know, I kind of, it made me stop for some time. And I felt subconsciously that we needed to do something, but I couldn't, connect the dots. So the moment she came in, it hit me that no, this woman needs to be at the forefront. She needs to be centered. And that's how we will fill that absence. Because if you think about it, everyone was there. The artists, the designers, the curators, the founder, the directors, the writers, everyone was there, even in spirit, but the artisan was not, the artisans from En'ash, they were involved in some of the pieces, not everything. But they are the ones who still to this day practice this tradition. Because it's a source of income, because it symbolizes their belonging to a homeland that they've been denied access to. And to me, it embodies their right to return. As long as they're stitching and embroidering, this is proof that they have taken this culture and they still practice it, and they're still teaching their daughters how to do it. That means, and they know the motifs and what they mean, and the technique and everything, and the alignment, and, from A to Z. So that means that they belonged there. They belonged to Palestine. And as long as we keep on saying that, we are emphasizing on their right to return. And this is what we hope for.
This medium speaks volumes to the amount of things that need to be said. And I'm very grateful that it exists, because it truly has provided us with kind of a voice. And I feel like with this exhibit, it's kind of shown how that voice can translate in so many different ways. In the spirit of Tarwida, echo and resonance, if you will, I do have a closing question. What part do you hope will be heard long after you've stopped speaking?
I think what I hope for is Palestinian women and men to learn the cross stitch, to actually learn it and practice it. And there are a lot of workshops happening. It's becoming a movement now. And I hope that they stop looking at it as a decorative element. It's more than that. So I know it's been commodified, but we need to take a step back. It supports a lot of businesses, and that's great. But maybe let's be mindful a bit more about how to use it. Let's use it. It's an encoded language, so let's use it well. This is one thing when it comes to tatriz. Another thing when it comes to art and design, I think there were a lot of questions about why do Arabs in general hold on so dearly and tightly to craft. I think it's because we're accustomed to facing threats of erasure, threats of cultural appropriation, being looked at as if craft means nothing. It's
Primitive.
But it's a vessel for identity, and we should be proud of our identity. And if anything, we should teach this to other parts of the world. And I think it's starting to pick up.
Yes, absolutely. Carry it forward. Move forward with it. Accept it, and also give it value. And I think this is what we really want to do as well. And give it value, but also give it its... I guess what I'm trying to say is that, as we said right at the beginning, tatriz is ever evolving. So this can actually ever evolve. See it outside what it actually is. It's not only a craft, as Noor is saying. Evolve and evolve through storytelling, evolve through song, through stitch, through color, through the absence of color. So whatever it is, just carry it forward and educate and move forward with it. Don't leave it behind.
Beautifully said. thank you so much for your time. Shakli, Anna, I'm going to go see the exhibit again because I feel like I
Yeah,
want to
one
go.
time is not enough.
One time is not enough. And especially after this conversation, I feel like I want to go in and appreciate everything on a deeper level. I'm so appreciative of the thought that went into this. And I look forward to your next one.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
It was a labor of love,
It really
love for
was.
Palestine, love for Tatriz, and
Yes,
love for art and design.
absolutely.
So all combined, and this is what it culminated in.
Absolutely.
And we're so proud.
Yatikum
Thank you so
al-afiyah.
much.
Thank
Allah
you.
yafik.
Now that we've heard about the exhibit as a whole, it's time to dig deep into the works of our featured artists. Join me as I sit with Areen Hassan, Samar Hijazi, and Zaid Farouqi. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
So glad to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, well, we're going to jump into the first question. So when you first encountered the idea of Tatriz in the context of the Silla exhibit, what did you feel? What did you want to say?
I think our piece kind of came on later on with the exhibition when they visited the atelier and they actually knew which piece they wanted to showcase part of it. So I remember them visiting, and there was this piece that I had created a couple of months before, which started having a life of its own. So the headpiece was actually created as a study for that point for the Bit Lahem Shatwe for Vogue, and eventually was worn by Ilyana, worn by Zain in the Asli Ana music video, and eventually showcased. And then I personally didn't know what to do with it in the atelier because it's become part of the archive. Like it has its own history. And there's some pieces in the atelier that we have like that's been worn by such iconic people that you can't showcase it anymore. It has a life of its own. And when they approached me to exhibit it, I was like, yes, this is the natural progression of the piece. It's actually was a study that crowned these modern, I would say, very vocal Palestinian or allies throughout the region. It crowned them, and then respectively should go into the exhibition, and that I felt like that was a natural transition to it when it comes to the Tatriz.
I like the idea of it being a piece that was also featured in different stages and in different ways. Can you talk to us about the significance of this piece and why you consistently refer to it as a crown?
My full name is actually, I know I go with my label, which is Zaid Farouqi, but my full family name is Taji al-Farouqi. So with كلمة التاج or the word التاج, which means my crown, is my phenomena of like having headpieces. And I think headpieces historically are a major identity, part of our identity throughout the region. Whether it is, and each country and each region and each sect or each religion had a different one, and you can identify it from each person, which is beautiful. Or they actually grounded you. So some men would carry their burial fabric on their head. And it's so grounding because that means like I have my burial fabric on my head that I will always remember that any day I've got what I need to kind of move on. But it's so interesting. So for our perspective, for that headpiece, it also doubles as the bank to the family, because it has all the silver coins, all the gold coins, all the details onto it, and women add to it throughout their lives. So it shows not only the storytelling aspect and the powerful play that the woman has in our culture, but also how to preserve the family, and the financial power was actually on her head the whole entire time. And so headpieces is just a fascination of mine when I deep dive into it, and it happens to be part of my last name, and it just kind of rolls with it.
Which takes me to you, Areen. Your work unweaves and restitches history. What were the emotions that drove your process? Can you talk to us a little bit about your work?
Yeah, actually, in my work, you always see the threads part and the unfolded parts of the fabric. And it's a research that I started in 2014. I wanted to show how things, when they return to their original and first form, they look like broken, not complete, but they are beautiful, strong, powerful, and complete, and something that reflects the place that I come from as Palestinians. You know, as Palestinians, we are very connected to our land, to our community, to our people, to our culture, but it's never fully complete because we don't have a country. Like, we have a land, but we don't have a country.
There's something so powerful about seeing the fragility of the way that you kind of were hanging the threads themselves. But then when you take a step back and you look at them side by side next to each other, there's something beautiful in the color scheme that it starts to form. That it also speaks to this idea of when these threads come together, there's a strength in them. Samar, your suspended threads almost challenge gravity itself. What does space represent in your work, especially in your interpretation?
That series started as a questioning of how do I describe the Palestinian identity as a diaspora, especially because it doesn't fit in these concrete definitions that we're given of what an identity is. And so I always work through the material. So I feel like I start with the material, and then the material explains to me how something can exist despite what you think. So when I started working with the textile, with tatriz in this work, I wanted to see if the tatriz can exist without the land. Because at the time when I was making the work, there was a lot of talk, I lived in Canada, of Palestine never existing, and how can you be still Palestinian, or khalas, you're in Canada now, so you might as well just assimilate, kind of thing. So the challenge was, can I make tatriz exist without land? And if it can, without fabric. And if it can, then it's my way of understanding how the Palestinian people can exist without land, or explain it to myself. And it worked. And then the work taught me that it doesn't just exist without land. It also exists in this three-dimensional space that you can't even encapsulate. So that removes the whole definition of a boundaried space, a boundaried land, a boundaried identity. Definitions, kind of opened up the idea that, we can just we'll just make our own definition, because these definitions are made so that we don't exist. That's the point of these definitions. Yeah. But we actually exist through the movement, through the shadows, through the interaction, through your perspective. It's always shifting. That work is never installed in the same way.
I think it's incredible the way that you guys talk about your own work. And I'm curious, you all came in with your own, I don't want to say biases, but ideas around what you would find in terms of tatriz interpretations. Because I find that the medium itself, tatriz, is a language in itself. What surprised you most about each other's work, or the work that you saw?
Actually, I was surprised by the whole exhibition. I think for the first time walking into the exhibition, and I think everyone that viewed it, even through their phone, said, we can see the natural evolution of how tatriz has moved on to the next generation, and how it will live on to the future generations. I think it doesn't or it doesn't diminish from the beautiful craft and the storytelling that our previous generations that have held for hundreds, if not thousands of years, does not diminish that. But also, as we can see, we started in the past 2-3 years, I think what we've found out is we finally know or are able to speak our language or get our ideas through on a global scale, whether it's from the arts, whether it's fashion, whether it's musicians, whether it's poets. And I think now we're looking at it and we're like, okay, now we can actually use that craft to speak on a global language. Because at the end of the day, we're all here and we all need to amplify the voices of the people that are there, right? We're diaspora and we need to amplify what's happening there. And I think this brings in the conversation and the attention to what's happening.
Also, I'd like to add, when I started deconstructing and doing all of that, of course, everyone in Amman lost their mind a little bit. And how can you take the time to do the work and then cut the work?
Interesting.
You know, but for me, it was like, I understand the rigidity that we have around tatriz when I was learning in Amman, because there's this like fear of loss. But if we continue to move only like this, I felt like we were museumizing the craft. And museumizing the craft puts it in a timeline, closes the chapter, and then what? So the fact that, to add on to what you were saying, that there's an evolution, I'm very happy to see that people are now, Palestinians are taking ownership of the tatriz and evolving the craft and creating more language around it, because it shows that the Palestinian identity is very much alive.
And also, I may add, like, the exhibition is beautifully done, and we have to say there was a lot of not only Palestinians, but also Palestinian and Palestinian allies,
100%.
And it's beautiful. And like,
100%.
our culture is all about, whether, if you want to look at tatriz, it's all about sharing, it's all about storytelling. So whoever wants to be part of that storytelling aspect and wants to share the cause, and this is something that was so beautifully profound that we've seen. I know it's in a bad situation, but everyone that had a platform, everyone that had a craft, and everyone that had something of any sort that stood right by us, what vocalized it. And it's also not removing the identity of who they are or the Palestinian, but they're actually been there, stood by us, and actually create with us side by side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tatriz is community. I teach tatriz, and my favorite part is what happens in the classes. It's not so much the teaching, it's, you get comfortable, and then you start talking, then you're a group of people that meet every week that talk surrounding tatriz. And that's what it always was, to do a craft with other women, and you're doing this meditative act, and then slowly you're opening up and you create this community of support.
The collaborative aspect, the community aspect that you reference is a beautiful nod to the name of the exhibit, Sila. Tatriz is that medium that connects us. And in this case, the different interpretations was the language to get us speaking, the language to get us around a table like this, talking.
I was in Beirut back in June. I keep forgetting the exhibitors' names, but I will have to look it up and mention them. So they had interviews with people that were imprisoned Biljnoub in the south of Lebanon. And so once they were liberated in 2006, they had these interviews, and they were men and women. And they were actually saying there were two things that they needed essentially onto how to spend their time in these mataqalat or during the time. It is actually a needle and thread and the zaytun pits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why
And so
the
it's
zaytun
like,
pit with the olive seed?
okay, so the ibra and khayt, because they wouldn't give them any changes of clothes, so sometimes they would have to share with the previous people that were
The leftover clothes.
yeah. So it was the first thing that they would do, is trying to figure out how they can actually get anything that could be metal or shape it, so they can actually sew the clothes back into their size, or they wouldn't even be given clothes. So after months and years, their clothes so they can actually fix it.
Wow.
And then they would spend their time with creating these tatriz, and they actually had some of the pieces showcased. These tatriz small swatches on any fabric, that's fine. And the zaytun pits would actually make prayer beads.
Oh, wow.
I love that.
I love that too. That's beautiful.
Right? So it tells you like how intricate, and automatically our first instinct is to create from these materials that we're so connected with.
100%.
Wow.
That gave me goosebumps.
The whole region is ibra khayt and zaytun.
A needle and thread and an olive pit. That's beautiful. طب if tatriz is a language, and I think we all agree that it is, what message do you guys send through the work that you're doing? What do you want people to take away from it?
You're gonna hate my answer.
No, tell me.
But I've been doing tatriz for a while, or art for a while, and I have no control over how people see it. Context, people come in with their own thing. I work with tatriz for myself to understand something else, so that I can then talk about something else with more clarity.
You know what's interesting about your piece? I'm just going to jump in and say it, since you gave us permission by telling us how the Jordanians felt.
Yeah.
But when I saw your piece, it was painful. It was painful to see, because for me, it was like, why is it withering away?
But see, for me, it wasn't painful. It was actually a way of saying, like, look, we exist actually in a more beautiful way. It's kind of like your work. Like, we exist in a dimension that we don't even need to try to explain, you know? And so I like the look of withering away, but also this idea. I was challenged with this last time. Another time somebody asked me, like, why do you take it apart, or why do you ruin them? And this definition of ruining is also the same, you know, it's like as subjective as beauty, you know, like who's deciding if it's ruined, you know? And if you feel that way, that's okay, that's for you. But that's that's me challenging it, that idea. Why is it ruined?
Yeah.
Who decided? Does it have to be so perfect? What is that proving? You
Very
know?
valid point. Yeah, absolutely.
Or it could be that with everything that's removed, like we're stripped out of everything, but yet again, there's still beauty from with the craft
Absolutely.
is still there. Like the beauty is still within, with their threads and all of that. So our identity still lives on, even by being stripped away from everything.
What
But
message
it's
did
not stripped away.
But it's not. But like, I
Because
mean,
it's
like, it
stripped
could
so
be.
that you could see more, you know, like
Yeah.
even taking it apart for me, it's like, but look how much more there is when you make it so perfect. It's khalas, I got it.
Especially after hearing you say that, even the term stripped away doesn't do justice to what it is that you're trying to do. Because really what you're trying to do is challenge convention.
I'm challenging the definition that who gave me? Empire, the West, whoever. Somebody
Colonization.
gave me this definition and I don't fit. Why? I won't forget the definition, then who are you? That's my attitude, you know? Like, khalas, I'll make my own. Why? So that I can always feel at a loss and always feel like I'm longing and always feel. But no.
ما طبعا that's your attitude فلسطينية. Zid, talk to me about the message you're trying to send with your work.
I actually come from a very much like a longing kind of. So a lot of the practice actually that I do, or the things when I conceptualize, is that I was born in a very storytelling household. And it's quite funny because I was raised where you walk into both grandparents' homes, you still find the photographs of their homes actually in both maternal or paternal side. They're still up, okay? And I do have so many historical records and so many actually newspaper cutouts or events that they took part of. Whether it's during the Ottoman era, whether it's during the British Mandate, and then forward. So I always, with my practice, I kind of think, and this is an exhibition that I did in October 2024. I actually put in all the cutouts and all the historical images and the garments, a modern interpretation of the garments of how I would wear it right now if I were to go on a runway or a red carpet anywhere across the world. I want my identity to speak out loud, but in a way that I'm still relevant, yet again, not diminishing any of the crafts that is out there. And my question kind of lives on is, how would have our traditional attire evolved if we weren't banned or outlawed or borrowed a Western garb? And because, as we said, we went into a preservation mode where you can't touch this. And not to quote MC Hammer, but then again, you can't touch this at all. And you're kind of bound to, this is how a thobe looks, or this is how a man's thobe and ghutran, agal, or shirwal, or anything works. And we can't touch the colors, we can't touch the fabrics. Yet again, also the craft and the people, the artisans that used to create this, are no longer able to sustain themselves because this is looked upon as something old or traditional.
Dated.
So no, we want to look at it and like, let's revive the craft. Let's work with whatever's left with the artisans and let's create these pieces and let's see how we can evolve it. And so what could have been? And that is always my question when I design and create.
What could have been, but also what is. Because I find that what's beautiful about the work you do is that it's very current. And it's something that a lot of people have embraced, from celebrities to everyone else on ground, you know? And it started conversations that take us back to history and where it comes from. And I think that's what's interesting about the conversation you both are having. This idea of preservation or keeping it the same was very much attached to this idea of we don't want to forget. And when we return, that is when we will make things better again. But I think based on how you guys beautifully articulated it, it's reframing this idea of we haven't gone anywhere. And even if we're exiled now, because I do consider myself a Palestinian living in exile, me not being physically there does not take away one iota of my identity or who I am and how I choose to represent that. The evolution is going to continue even outside until we go back. Which actually takes me to you, Irene. Inti, you have the most, I'm almost jealous, you have the most unique experience of the four of us, because although you're based in Dubai now, you grew up in Palestine. Palestine is your home, it is your home base, it is what you see and breathe. So you bring a completely different perspective. What is your message that you want to tell us and the rest of the world about the work that you do?
So, actually, I'm gonna speak about Silla exhibition work because they're like all the work inspired by Jerusalem, my homeland. I grew up there, and I don't know how to describe that, to grow up there, because it's not easy actually. But like through the work, I wanted to show the beauty of our culture, our people, our community, even if we are like all over the world. So the work like weaving the land back, خيوط العودة, actually it shows the Palestinian relationship to the land, even across distance. So actually it's a series of 3 pieces, and the first piece it shows the Palestinian relationship to the land during Nakba, because when Nakba happened, we thought it's a period of time and we would return. We didn't know that it formed for us a new identity, a new like way, a new like form. And even like the piece is connected by threads, and the gap is small. And even the design is like a placement with a border, because we thought that we would return. And then like second piece, the gap is much longer, the threads part, and it shows the Palestinian relationship to the land, even across distance. Actually, the third piece, it represents the 3 periods, Nakba, after Nakba, and the period that we live in now, Sumud.
Resilience, yes. Is there anything that you guys would like to add around your process?
Up until now, the sourcing of the materials is so beautiful for me, and because it shows how we are actually still a culture with no borders, but with borders imposed. So the saya fabric that's used in the headpiece that's historically been used actually comes from Syria. And we have to go into, sadly, with what has happened or what had happened to Syria in the past decade, 11 years. We kind of lost a lot of the factory makings. So I actually had to go through old bayain قماش to actually find like بفضل متر ونص or something. I have to combine it to actually get the silversmiths. So the silversmiths still are there, but their craft is diminishing. And for example, a lot of times, if you actually want to produce something that's silver, the easiest way is actually to go to Egypt. And yet again, a lot of, for me, because Jordan is closer and Jordan is also part of my identity and home as well, I'm able to source certain materials that can mimic historical, because there's still people trying to keep that
handicraft
identity
alive. And that speaks again to the collaboration in this exhibit and the name Silla. Even in telling our own story, it requires us to also take a step back and understand that we're all part of this. We don't sit in isolation from each other. And I think that's beautiful. Tayyib, 1 word for Palestine.
Can I give you more than 1 word?
You can give me 100.
I think when I think of Palestine and the Palestinians, there's resilience, there's fight, there's all that. But I think for all, this is going to sound cheesy, but for all of that fits under this umbrella of love that we all have for each other. And I've had shows with Palestiniye min Ramallah or min Gaza, and we treat each other. And my Arabic's not very good, and there's this like wanting to stay connected and be kind to each other and be respectful and like going out of our way to keep us whole. I don't know how it is on the ground, but that's how I feel. That is like that love is what I think that's Palestinian. I don't see it anywhere else. Yeah.
And for me, it's community, 100.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's actually love as well. Love, and love through community.
Exactly.
I want to thank you for your dedication to your craft, for your contribution to our ongoing, evolving story.
Habibi, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having
Absolutely.
us. It's such a pleasure.